What if I told you a $350 billion trade deal just shook up global power tonight, and most people haven't even noticed? A handshake in South Korea, a golden crown, a promise of billions, and the kind of geopolitical theater that could rewrite alliances from Washington to Seoul to Beijing. This isn't just about tariffs or trade, it's about who controls the next chapter of the world economy. So stay right here, because what just happened could change the global balance of power, and your wallet might feel it sooner than you think. Welcome back to the channel, where we cut through the noise and decode the real forces shaping America's place in the world. No fluff, no faces, just facts and perspective. Today, we're diving into Donald Trump's pretty much finalized trade deal with South Korea, a massive agreement that could reshape Asia's economy, boost American industries, and send shockwaves through China's backyard. But as always with Trump, the story behind the story is where things get interesting. Let's start with what we know. On October 29, 2025, during his Asia trip, President Trump announced that a new trade deal between the United States and South Korea was, quote, pretty much finalized. The announcement came after a 90-minute meeting with South Korean President Lee Jae-myung in the ancient city of Gyeongju. According to reports from Politico and Anadolu Agency, the agreement includes a staggering $350 billion investment pledge from South Korea into the U.S. economy. That's $200 billion in direct payments spread over several years, and another $150 billion directed into joint industrial cooperation, especially in shipbuilding and advanced manufacturing. In exchange, the United States is preparing to roll back some of the heavy tariffs on South Korean goods, including autos, electronics, and industrial parts, cutting them down from 25% to around 15%. South Korean industries like pharmaceuticals, timber, airplane components, and energy materials are also expected to get tariff exemptions or relaxed restrictions. Essentially, Seoul is investing big in America and getting smoother access to U.S. markets in return. But before we call this a done deal, there's a catch. Both sides admit that the final paperwork still needs to be signed. The phrase, pretty much finalized, is doing a lot of heavy lifting here. In international diplomacy, that can mean anything from, we've agreed in principle, to, we still need to settle half the details. Still, let's be real, even an outline like this is massive. It's one of the largest bilateral trade packages ever announced between the two countries. So why does it matter? Because this deal isn't just about trade, it's about strategy, power, and influence in Asia. Economically, it's a huge win for both sides on paper. For the U.S., this means an influx of capital that can fund manufacturing revival, shipbuilding projects, and infrastructure jobs. For South Korea, it means guaranteed market access to one of the world's biggest economies and a chance to secure its export base amid growing regional tensions. But geopolitically, the implications are even bigger. The U.S.-South Korea relationship has always been grounded in security, military bases, defense treaties, and North Korea deterrence. Now, it's evolving into something deeper: economic interdependence. Trade becomes leverage. Money becomes diplomacy. The message is clear: if you invest in America, you get America's friendship. It's also a signal to China. While Trump didn't name Beijing directly, the subtext is obvious. By deepening economic ties with South Korea, the U.S. is reinforcing its economic footprint in East Asia, right at China's doorstep. And that's happening at a time when Beijing is struggling with slowing growth and rising tensions in the South China Sea. Now, that's the bright side. But as always, big promises come with big risks. First, this deal is not yet legally binding. The White House hasn't released the full text or confirmed all the terms. So there's still room for disagreements, revisions, or even a collapse if either side balks. Second, South Korea's parliament has to approve the investment terms. And many in Seoul are wary of sending so much capital overseas, especially with a cap of $20 billion per year in cash payments designed to prevent foreign exchange shocks. That's not just a budgetary issue, it's a political one. Third, American industries might not be universally thrilled. Lower tariffs mean more competition from Korean automakers like Hyundai and Kia, which could pressure U.S. manufacturers. That's a tricky balance for Trump, selling the deal as both pro-investment and pro-American jobs. And finally, there's the elephant in the room: timing. This announcement comes as Trump is facing domestic and international scrutiny. A major foreign economic victory boosts his global image and gives his administration a new talking point: we're bringing billions home. It's classic Trump, mixing showmanship, negotiation, and nationalist appeal in one bold move. But what does it mean for everyday Americans? Potentially, lower prices on cars, electronics, and imported goods. Possibly, new jobs in U.S. shipyards and factories if South Korean investments materialize. And maybe, a slight easing of inflationary pressure if supply chains improve. For South Koreans, it could mean stronger exports and economic security, though critics warn it could also mean dependence on the U.S. market and vulnerability to policy swings in Washington. Zoom out even further, and you can see this deal as part of a bigger pattern, a global reshuffling of trade relationships. The U.S. under Trump 2.0 is leaning hard into one-on-one deals, using America's massive market as leverage to extract investment pledges. We've already seen similar tactics with Japan and talk of possible discussions with Taiwan and even India. The logic is simple. Bilateral deals give Washington maximum control and political credit. Multilateral frameworks, like the old Trans-Pacific Partnership, dilute that control. Now, the symbolism of this deal can't be ignored either. During his visit, Trump was awarded a golden crown, a replica of an ancient Korean royal artifact, along with South Korea's highest civilian honor. The optics were clear, two leaders celebrating a new era of partnership, with all the pomp and ceremony to match. But behind that glittering image lies a web of negotiations, strategic calculations, and economic risks. Because the truth is, this deal isn't just about cars and tariffs. It's about the new world order taking shape in real time. The U.S. is using economic muscle to secure alliances, counter China's rise, and project power not through war, but through wealth. And South Korea, caught between two giants, is choosing to double down on its oldest ally, the United States. So what happens next? Both governments are expected to finalize the details over the coming weeks. Implementation could start next year, with gradual tariff reductions and phased investments. But experts warn that if global markets wobble, or if either side feels shortchanged, the deal could slow down or even unravel. Either way, one thing's for sure, this is the biggest U.S. trade headline since the 2018 renegotiation of KORUS. And whether you support Trump or not, his strategy is changing how America does business with the world. A $350 billion handshake. A promise of jobs, investments, and influence. And a reminder that in geopolitics, deals aren't just signed on paper, they're written in power. If you found this breakdown helpful, hit that like button, subscribe for more global deep dives, and tell me in the comments. Do you think this deal is a smart move for the U.S., or just another headline for show? Thanks for watching. I'm your narrator, and this is where global headlines meet real talk.